Hello and welcome to Winning at the Game of Life, Real Strategies, Real Results. I'm Kate Crow, and I'm so pleased to be talking with Tina Mendelese. Am I saying your last name right?
It's Mundelse.
Yeah. Okay. I don't trust myself to always get the pronunciations right, but I was just telling Tina that I woke up and I was so excited to talk to her today. She's coming to us from her home in Sicily, where she is a spiritual life and relationship coach who has studied personal development for the last 20 plus years. And she guides her clients to new levels of well being through many different modalities, but mostly through her incredible zest for life. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you about how self-love and self-care are uh, intertwined, and how they really affect our success or that sense of winning in life. So with no further ado, hello, Tina.
Thanks, Kate, for having me.
Ah, um, yeah, so jumping right in, you brought up a really good point just prior to our conversation here about why do people have a hard time with that concept? And do you want to talk about a little bit about that? Is why is it so hard for us to kind of love ourselves?
Mhm. All right. So, yeah, when we talk about not loving ourselves, right? That's basically we are talking about that voice in our head, right? That attacks us, that tells us, you can't do it. Oh, you failed again. And look at all these other people. They're so much better. And I will never be better than my colleague. Or look at your body, you gained weight again. We're talking about that voice in our head, which we call our mind, right? So, our mind, especially the part we call the ego, right? The ego is like the model of the world, right? Like how we think we should be, how we think life should be, how we think we should show up in the world, and how others should see us, right? So those are all beliefs, right? And those beliefs, this is basically the program we are running on. Okay, so these beliefs, beliefs, they determine what meaning we give
Mhm.
to ourselves or to what happens in life or where we stand in life, right? How we interpret that situation, okay? That's what beliefs do. And then how we interpret what we do, what we are able to do, or our level of success, okay? That determines how we feel. And how we feel, our emotions, they motivate our actions. And our actions create our results, okay, in any area of life. So if you want to talk about success at work, success in your relationships, success whatever, okay. And the problem is that most of us, right, we carry that belief and we run on this belief that we're not enough, okay, we're not enough, or something is not available to us. Let's say money is not available to us, a healthy relationship is not available to us, a big car is not available to us, any kind of success or abundance is not available to us, right? Or the belief, that we are different, or we're different somehow, we don't fit in, right? So most of us somehow we run on this belief, okay, and those beliefs are stored in our subconscious mind. So they were programmed, okay, our mind, our brain gets wired, gets programmed mostly when we are very small, okay, when we are little kids, okay, because that's, we come into this world, there's no programming, okay, our software is empty, okay, and then whatever happens around us or to us, how other people treat us, or how we have to show up for our parents, to get our parents love, to get our parents attention, to get our parents praise, to make our parents happy, any behavior, we develop in getting the emotions we want from our parents, right? That becomes a belief. So let's say for your parents, for example, okay, to get your parents' love and to get your parents' praise and to get, to feel really loved by your parents. Maybe you always had to be perfect, right? Maybe you always had to be perfect, or you always heard, look at your sister, look at your brothers, they do better than you, okay? And then obviously the belief, gets formed in your head that no matter what I do, it's never enough, okay? Or I always have to be perfect. Or maybe, it was really hard to make your parents happy, or, like to come home from school and maybe you didn't have the best grade, but maybe you had an average grade, but your parents would never tell you average is okay. So you always think whatever you do, it's never enough, right? So, or maybe, maybe one of your parents left because maybe your parents got divorced, or maybe someone died in your family. And as a little child, when you grow up, you feel responsible. You always feel responsible for how your parents feel, what they do, right? So let's say someone left because your parents separated or something, then you think, oh my God, I'm not even good enough, to make my parents stay at home with us, I'm not even good enough for that. And or maybe you always heard your parents talk about, money problems or money issues. And
Right,
then
the
you grow up.
embody.
Exactly. And you always, what you hear when you're little, your brain is like a sponge. Everything gets programmed into your mind, into your brain. And that becomes the program, the system you run on. Like you base your decisions, right? Your feelings, and it's very easy, that let's say, okay, you live in a small house and your neighbors lived in a big house, and your parents would always say, look at the neighbors. Yeah, they're successful, but we are different. We have to work really hard for our money, and to be successful, it's not possible for us. We are coming, we're different than those. So obviously, these beliefs get ingrained in your brain, in your mind, right? That some things are not available to you. Okay. And most of us, unfortunately, we never do an upgrade. We upgrade our phone, we upgrade our computer, but we don't upgrade our beliefs, right? And so we still show up today in the world as adults, behaving, or running on the program, like little kids.
Right.
And that obviously doesn't work. So what to do about that? First of all, right? So usually when I work with clients, okay, at this point we do like a little like hypnotherapy or something, something to go into our subconscious mind and to remember some events from our past. They can be with the parents, they can be in the early childhood, or later on, when it comes to, teenager or young adulthood, maybe we weren't allowed to be part of a group of friends. Maybe all our friends went to university, but we didn't make it. Those little events, they all get stuck as the belief, I'm different, I'm not enough, certain things are not available to us, right? So we have to go a little bit backwards, okay? And go back to those events and understand, when did we feel like this? When were these beliefs created, right? And we can ask ourselves, how did I have to be to get my parents' attention? How did I have to be so that my dad would really tell me, wow, I'm so proud of you? Huh? Was it hard? Was it easy? Or, what did I hear? What was something usual conversation I heard between my parents? Or did I often feel like it's my fault that my parents were fighting? Or something like that, right? So this is the work you usually do individually with someone, right? It's very personal. But it's usually done, in 1 hour, you can really access these events and it's very quick. Okay. And then once you know what happened, okay, what's the reason for these beliefs, then you start talking to your inner child. And you start talking to your inner child and you imagine, you imagine yourself, you visualize yourself when you were in the situation. Maybe as a child, like 5, 6 years old, or as a teenager or a young adult, whenever this situation happened, where you didn't feel good enough, or like you can't love yourself because you're different and you're just not that good. And then you start looking at the little version of you, right? You visualize that, you imagine that you have this great faculty, the mind. Use your imagination, not to create future horrible scenarios that create anxiety. Use your imagination to imagine, you visualize yourself as a little kid. And then you start reparenting that little kid, right? And then you look at that little version of yourself and you say, all right, listen, now look at me. We are not that little child anymore. We are an adult now. And now today, I am telling you, you're enough. And now I'm telling you, everything's available to you. And I'm now here to believe you and to trust you and to tell you, you are unique. And you should celebrate your uniqueness. You should not be like everyone else. Be unique and trust yourself. All right. And then you talk to the little kid and you tell the kid, look at me. Look at my life now. I have a job. I have a house. I have a partner. I have a car. I have a phone. I have a computer. Everything is available to me. And I do not have to be perfect. And I'm not responsible for how other people feel. And, you don't have to be liked by everyone. Okay. Simply do your best. So you basically talk to that little kid in a way you wanted to be talked to, or you should have been talked to when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, I think
That's where affirmations come into the
Mhm.
game. That's when we use affirmations, because our brain is like a muscle. Whatever got programmed into our mind is because we experienced it, we heard it over and over again, right? Or a traumatic experience, right? But you simply reprogram new beliefs into your brain by repeating them. And when it comes to affirmations, you have to fake it till you make it. Okay. So you really, even if you don't feel good enough right now, even if you're not able to love yourself, even if you right now you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe that your business is going to be a success or your relationship is going to be a success, you pretend. You have to pretend. You have to talk to yourself as if it was already true, no doubt, right? Because your brain believes everything you say. Okay.
Yeah. I think your point is like I love the analogy that our brains are like little mini computers.
Mm-hmm.
I think your point to the fact that, I mean, I agree that we come in as sort of pure little souls. I can see it in my two little granddaughters who aren't even just barely a year old, that their personalities, their beings, they're like clean slates, but our experiences do make a difference. And all of us, this is true of everybody, right? And then the way that we interpret. So it's almost like that lens that we're looking through. And I think that oftentimes it's usually in a breakdown, I'm going to say it that way, or when all of a sudden we get to a certain age, oftentimes it's 40 when we've had enough experiences, but it can happen at any point. I often say when we get sick and tired of being sick and tired, when the pain of our everyday life gets to a place, it's like the soul or the universe knocking on the door saying, hey, maybe your operating system needs to be updated.
Exactly.
Such that the beliefs that you have been gathering evidence for and locking in place, it gets to be rechallenged. And I love that you're absolutely right. I think being able to articulate, oh, this is my inner child, and now I need my wise adult to step in and reparent and question.
Yeah.
Is this really true?
Exactly.
Am I the powerless person I was at 4 when I'm 28? No. Yeah. Very, very different, right? Or 46 or whatever age we are. But and I think being able then to look back and reprogram is exactly that. But
yeah. And I really advise everyone, record yourself, take your phone, voice recorder, and say everything, you want to experience. Because where you focus on, and what you keep telling yourself eventually becomes your reality, becomes your feeling, becomes your reality, right? So take your phone, hit the voice recorder, and start saying things like, I'm enough. Everything is available to me. Money and success are coming to me easily. Everything is possible to me. I do not have to be, not everybody has to like me. I'm not responsible for how other people feel. I love my body. I love my life. And everything I need is coming to me easily. Really record yourself and then put your earplugs in and listen to it every single day. Your brain is like a muscle. It's like going to the gym. It takes time. Okay. But listening for me personally is much more powerful than just reading the affirmations or saying them in my head, silently. It works really fast. It has a bigger impact if you listen to it. And then when you were talking about, like when we were like 40 years old, I noticed this in myself and also a lot of my clients, that we finally want to learn how to say no, right? Finally want to say how to learn how to say no, how to set boundaries. And we finally have to understand this, right? That, it doesn't matter. Not everybody has to agree with us. And we don't have to be like others. And we have to understand how our mind works, how the computer works, because it's a natural working of the mind that the mind likes to compare. Now, if your mind compares you to someone who is doing worse than you, then you feel great, which is pretty sad if we only feel great, looking at someone. But that's how the mind works. That's not me. That's not you. This is how the mind works. So we have, and this is where we need mindfulness, right? That is where we need presence to observe what's going on up there and not compulsively do everything and not believe everything. When this happens or when the mind starts to attack us, we have to react. We have to make a conscious choice, of when the mind attacks you with self-shame, self-doubt, anything that has nothing to do with respect and love, immediately we have to move into the opposite direction. Immediately we have to start repeating our affirmations. This is very important, and that's the practice. This is how you change. You don't sit there, freeze, and allow your mind to attack you and allow your mind to make you feel bad. Okay, you're not allowed to do that anymore. This has to stop immediately.
So basically what you're saying is that, the first step is noticing.
Being
Right?
aware.
Or maybe the first step for our listeners is to take note of the places where you're complaining, where you feel blocked, where you feel resentment, where you're bitter. Like look at those places less as, with curiosity. I guess that's a great word to put it in there, right? I wonder, and I know you have a very established, dedicated mindfulness practice that you work with people in, but I really also want to highlight for people listening that the first step is to notice in your body what you're feeling, and then to have that compassion and curiosity to say, wait a second, what am I making this mean? And how can since you and I were talking earlier, the answer is us, right? It always comes down to we can't change the politics of the world. I mean, we can with voting and all of that kind of stuff. But do you see, there's a lot of stuff when we have this sensation of powerlessness that I can feel that with my computer. But is it really true? No. Do I have to learn something? Yes. Right. Yeah. So but I could sit there and say, computers are all bad because I'm frustrated with it. And, we can all see the absurdity of that statement.
And as long as you repeat that, your brain hears what you say. And your brain works for you. Your brain gives you everything you say. So eventually your computer will break down. Or even, or eventually, you will get like, I don't know, such a headache that you can't continue working or anything, right? So you have to, this is why I teach people meditation. And, I tell people, okay, I don't even call it meditation, call it doing nothing. Sit down and close your eyes. And what you do, you observe what the voice is saying, okay? You observe what the voice is saying without reacting to it compulsively, without entering into a dialogue, okay? And without believing everything it says, because thoughts are just recycled impressions, okay? And they come up randomly. Most of your thoughts are not true. So when you practice observing every single day, let's say for 5 minutes, without engaging, without judging, then you bring this ability into your daily life. And then you are aware when your mind starts to attack you, and this self-shaming and blaming starts. All right. And then your inner alarm system goes on. Then you move into the opposite direction. Repeat your affirmations. Right. So this is the practice, but you have to do it. Nobody can do that for you. Right.
Right. And I think it, I don't know, it took me a long time in my life to realize that I had more power than I thought. Like, I don't like to call myself a victim, but there were elements where that powerlessness, I wouldn't necessarily say I was a victim, but the way I was operating in the world was victim-y, meaning, and for me, when I'm noticing that I'm blaming a situation, a person, or a thing, I know that's my clue and cue to, think about something in a different way, because I'm in a space of thinking I'm powerless. And what I'm loving about what you're saying, Tina, is that that's thought is based off of a belief that I can feed or not feed. And what you do with your clients and in your practices is that you guide people gently but confidently through the experience of noticing that you can actually find your power again.
Only power. It's the only power you have. You can control anything. Okay, our ego wants to think that we are in control to a certain point, but we're not in control. We don't know what happens in the next second. Okay, we really don't know. We can only do our best. Okay, hope for the best, but we don't know. So we're not in control of anything or anyone. But what we can control is what's happening within us, right? And that depends on the meaning we give to things or people or our own situation. And how do we give the meaning? Based on our beliefs, right? So how we interpret anything, how I interpret how you treat me, what you say to me, that's my business. And how I interpret it, that's how I feel. So the only thing I can control is how I feel. And if I feel like a victim, okay, if I allow others to make me feel a certain way, or I allow, Instagram, because I don't have 1 million followers, to make me feel a certain way, that's not anyone's fault but mine. And that's the reality, so we have to take, it's not only, for your self-love and whatever, it's take responsibility. What's happening within you, that's your business. So if you allow your mind to do whatever it wants and to attack you and to shame you and to blame you, it's your business. You have a choice. So this is something we have to realize. It's not very nice to hear, but that's how it is.
Yeah, and like tie this back to self-care and self-love, that it's so fundamental.
Yeah.
That so we can have this experience of life happening to us, basically. If we're getting in a terrible divorce, or something else is happening to us, we're trying to find a job and we can't find, it's how we are about what is going on is, as you're saying, all within our control.
Yeah.
It's very easy to say, I don't have confidence. But what this discussion is really about is, I think, the fundamental steps that we can take in self-care that produce self-love, that then actually make us happier and more fulfilled, and I'm going to say a higher version of ourselves, because we've actually put the oxygen mask on and we have the possibility to be more intentional and honest with our choices and how things and our experience of life. But I think this many times I hear I don't have time for self-care,
Mm, mm, mm,
or there's like a collapsing of self-care and selfishness, as if the two are one and the same, instead of recognizing that actually to be self-full and aware of our needs, as you're saying, like slowing down, what am I actually needing here? What's
yeah.
going on? How can I take care of myself in this moment
Mm.
so that I can impact it in the highest way?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can give you this, the explanation from the spiritual scriptures, right? For example, one thing I wanted to say, the first thing is, instead of saying what happens to me in life, okay, that's also a belief you can. Life does not happen to you. Life
Agreed.
just
Yeah.
happens, and shit just happens. Life just happens. Life never happens to you. Because if you say, it happens to me, already you feel sorry for yourself. It happens to me, it doesn't happen to others. Life just happens, okay? Life is made out of day and night, warm and cold, birth and death. That's life. So if life is going smooth for a while, something else will happen. And then everything is temporary. Something good will happen. So that's life just happens, right? And self-care is never selfish, right? Because see, however you feel within you, this is what you project out into the world, okay? And this is the filter through which you perceive life and others. Like that means what meaning you give to life and others. So now if you are in peace with yourself, you have resolved your old stuff from the past, you have made peace with the past. I'm not using the word forgiveness because it's very hard to forgive. You can accept, okay, but the ego can't forgive. Okay, but accept it, okay? Like this, like life just happens, okay? I had this past, okay? Everyone had this, but okay, if you really, make peace with yourself and you love yourself and you talk to yourself kindly and you are not judgmental with yourself, you have like a good atmosphere within you, right? And that atmosphere goes to the people around you. So self-care, you have to do it for yourself. You first have to fill up your own cup so that you can show up as a compassionate and kind person in the world and for your loved ones. And this is the most important thing. So it's not selfish at all. Okay, you have to make your inner well-being a priority, because otherwise, you will always, even if you have the nicest person in front of you, if your inner atmosphere is not clear and you keep beating yourself up, you will see something bad in this person. And that's also the explanation why you should never take anything personal if somebody treats you bad, right? So you really have to love yourself and also reason a little bit. If you can't love yourself and if you don't respect yourself, if you allow your own mind to attack you and to blame you and to judge you and to shame you, how can you expect someone else to love and to respect you? To do what you can't even do for yourself. So you have to use, reasoning sometimes with your mind. Don't just believe everything that this voice in your head says. Reason, use your intellect. You're a very intelligent being. And then what you said before, ask yourself, is that true?
Right. Yeah, and I think so in sort of summarizing what I'm hearing you say is this idea of, yes, it is hard to love ourselves because it's part of, well, it's that beautiful thing by Pierre Teilhard who says we aren't human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual creatures having a human experience. I know that I'm paraphrasing with that, but what I love about that is that, yeah, we're, in my interpretation of that is that we're spiritual creatures here to evolve our soul core wounds in this lifetime. And that is different for everybody. Everybody has that. But as you pointed out in the very beginning of this interview, most of us struggle with, am I lovable?
Mm-hmm.
Am I good enough? That fear, which, can unconsciously then be attached to, it's fundamental for so many people. But for me, the self-care actions for what you described as questioning those moments when you were really uncomfortable, taking the time to close your eyes, not judge what's coming up, but just to observe it,
Mhm,
and then
mhm,
to gently replace it with, you know, who and what you want to be,
mhm.
that more. And as you're saying, practice that. And as we do that and make that a priority, it becomes self-love.
Exactly,
And that
exactly.
becomes that beautiful, good cycle versus, and it interrupts the negative
Yeah,
patterning that's been going on.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
We have to do it. We have to do it, right? And yeah, we have to, you know, we are responsible for the quality of our life, right? Even if, whatever happens around us, we can decide to be okay. And that is the respect we should have for our life, for the opportunity to be part of the game of life, right? And also, I also often hear people, especially when women, when we get into our 40s, or like when, when the kids are out of the house, and then a lot of times, right, always people say, I always do everything for someone, for anyone else, for everybody else, and I never do anything for myself, which is okay. You have to set boundaries, okay? But if you also give a different meaning there, if you say, I'm not doing everything because I have to do this for everything, for everyone. I am serving, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that I can serve. And then you do your cooking and your cleaning and bringing the kids somewhere and whatever you do with a completely different attitude, an attitude of gratitude, and not of, feeling like, always someone else, I always have to do everything.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's a beautiful
yeah.
statement of, there's a great exercise where you make a list.
Yeah,
I have to do these things. And then
yeah,
say that same list, I get to do these things. And
yeah.
then say that same list with, I'm blessed to do these things. And I think what your point is that if at the very heart of self-care and self-love is this understanding that the thoughts in our heads that attack us in and take apart our self, that come out as self-doubt or self-blame or whatever, that we can actually impact that. And
Mm. That's the first thing, if you're like on the spiritual path, or like if you follow Vedanta, okay, the first thing is to understand you are not the mind. You are not the voice in your head. And if you, as you sit there and you close your eyes, you realize through reasoning that you can't be the object and the observer at the same time. You are observing that voice, you're listening to that voice, okay? And that means you can't be that because you are the one observing. And that's the first step, okay? And then from there, everything changes, because then you see your mind as an instrument. Then you understand how it works. And then you know how to deal with it, right? So nobody taught us this. So we got this great human being, but we didn't get an instructions manual. And this is why we allow the mind to do whatever it wants to do, and it attacks us. So we need instructions.
yeah,
And the last thing, right, I think we have to close it up, is really learn to set boundaries. And there's a lot of energy work you can do, like to set energetic boundaries, and to cut the cords with these old beliefs, and to cut the cords with the events that hurt you, that created those beliefs. There is really powerful energy work you can do. And I wanted to guide you through a little practice, but I don't think we have time now, but I'll show you one mudra, okay? It's called the Ganesha mudra. You take your left hand, bring it in front of your chest, take your right hand, and then you interlock your finger, like you grab your fingers, you hook your hands like this. Keep it here, keep your shoulders down, and you sit straight, and you pull outwards. You really feel your strength. Just make sure you don't pull your shoulders up, keep them down, lift your chest up, lift your chin up, and already doing this posture, you signal to your brain, I am brave, I am strong, I am powerful, okay, and I'm enough. So you sit there and you pull, and through your posture already, you're signaling to your brain, I'm to be respected and to be loved. So
And I love this. I love the fact that these hands are interlocked and
Mhm.
pulling at equal strength, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
The left and the right, the male and the female, however you want to look at it, but it's this we are everything, and we can really tap when we accept that we're everything, good, bad, like you said, light, dark, all of those things, and that we get to choose. And this is, what I'm taking away from your message, which is self-love and self-care are necessary
Mhm.
components to really feeling our power in life and to being able to shift out of a victim consciousness and into a more empowered stance.
Yeah, it's so important how we talk to ourselves, because no matter where we go, okay, people always want to run away from stupid situations. No matter where you go, that voice in your head goes with you. So this is the priority. Make that voice, talk to you in a respectful and kind way, and this is the most important part. And you can learn that. It's really technical stuff, right? It's an instrument. You get tools how to do that, and then eventually it will work.
Oh, it's so great. Thank you for the gift of your time and your wisdom, Tina. Listeners, there's a link below for her free gift. And I encourage you to check her out online because she has a lot of amazing programs. And as you can hear, an incredible catalog of experiences and wisdoms that she can share with you. So thanks again for everything that you do in this world to make it a more peaceful and loving place.
You too. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to share.
Of course.
Best.
Thank you.